Hello everyone, welcome to the Citrix Ready technical webinar series where we showcase how Citrix and our partners like AG Innovations today have integrated to deliver valuable products and solutions to common problems faced by our customers. My name is Amreshwara, your host today. I'm part of Citrix Ready technical marketing team leading cloud ecosystem. Along with me, I have Bala Vaidyanathan from AG Innovations. EG Innovations has been our key partner for many years, and they have developed monitoring solutions for complete Citrix stack of products. It's proud to have Bala Vaidyanathan today. He will be our main speaker for today's webinar. Hi, Bala. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, thanks, Amreshwar. This is Bala Vaidyanathan, CTO at EG Innovations. I run product management and engineering services. Back to you, Amar.
Thank you, Bala. To introduce Citrix Ready, we are end-to-end technology partner program that showcase and recommends the third-party products, solutions, and services that demonstrates the compatibility with Citrix products. With that, customers can quickly and easily find products recommended by Citrix in Citrix Ready Marketplace. If you'd like to know more about verified products and Citrix Ready programs, you could refer the links below. And you can also drop us an email at citrixready@citrix.com. So before I hand over to Bala, I would like to talk about Citrix Cloud and services. Uh, um, so now the Citrix entire workspace portfolio is available in the form of Citrix Cloud services. Citrix Cloud helps deliver an integrated digital workspace by seamlessly uniting all Citrix services and technologies into a single platform. It also provides underlying platform services for operations, service administration, resource management, updating, and user experience monitoring. the the entire portfolio, the entire platform and services are delivered as a software as a service. So as a result, now you will have an environment um, which is simple, faster, and secure and flexible. So consider being able to deploy, implement a fully integrated Citrix portfolio from a single management console to simplify administration. And it is faster. You can now rapidly deploy Citrix services in hours instead of weeks, and you will automatically have access to the latest capabilities and innovations. It is secure with our analytics-based approach to security. You will have a visibility into the behavior and usage of everything across your infrastructure, so you can identify and mitigate threats, and you can close security gaps quickly, knowing that you're always up to date with the software and patches, latest software and patches. So this provides you with the highest level of flexibility by managing apps across any infrastructure, and increase the visibility into business insights across all of those workloads. If you see in traditional XenApp and XenDesktop environment, customers have to install and provision all Citrix core components themselves. It required 4 to 10 servers to support delivery controller, database, studio, and director, etc., depending on performance and redundancy. So it also required hardware cost, and it also includes the hardware cost and the maintenance of your hardware and infrastructure. With the Citrix Cloud, XenApp and XenDesktop infrastructure will be managed by Citrix. All your core components will be hosted on Citrix data centers. This does not include your include the workloads VDAs. VDAs will be hosted and on a customer infrastructure. So the customer will have full control on their data and applications. So Citrix Cloud seamlessly manages the infrastructure-related operational tasks such as software version updates, maintenance, and service integration um, on behalf of the customer. So it also enables the customer to better focus on their core business rather than maintaining Citrix infrastructure. So Citrix Cloud connects to your resources through the cloud connectors. It could be on any cloud or infrastructure you choose. It can be on-prem or public or private or hybrid cloud. It allows you to create, manage, and deploy workspace with apps and data to your end users from a single management console. So let's see how EJ Innovations helps Citrix customers to monitor traditional and cloud infrastructure. So before that, one housekeeping item, we will have a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. You're welcome to submit your questions during the presentation. So you can use ask a question window in GoToWebinar to submit your questions. Also, we are recording today's webinar, and the link will be shared with you after a couple of days. So without any further ado, let me hand over to Bala. Hi, Bala, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Amar. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And this is where we start. 2018 is the year of Citrix migration. We've been doing a survey with a Citrix field for the past few years, and by the end of this year, it is estimated that about 87% of the Citrix customers will be on 7.x. So everybody is already there or planning to be there. So if you're not on 7.x, you're not alone, but you are in a shrinking minority. So having said that, that everybody's in 7.x, that's why the topic for today is what are the changes in 7.x? How is Citrix changed in 7.x? And because of those changes, what do we need to focus on when it comes to performance management and monitoring? How can you have the ideal solution for managing performance? What are the areas? What are the best practices to monitor XenDesktop 7.x? And last but not least, we will look into how just metric collection is not sufficient. We will look into a lot of different varieties of metric collection before the areas that needs to be focused on because of the changes in 7.x. But at the same time, why metric collection is not going to be enough when it comes to truly managing performance and delivering the best user experience in 7.x. So we'll talk a little bit about machine learning and AI ops. Like Amar said, keep your questions coming. We will also have a couple of demos thrown in there, and the slides are pretty detailed, and you will get a copy of the slides. And so you don't have to read that as everything that is in there. The slides are there for your reference notes later on if you need it. Okay, now, before I get into the actual technical content, a little bit about EG Innovations for maybe a few of you out there who haven't heard of us. We are an enterprise class application, infrastructure, and service monitoring solution that delivers end-to-end performance management, root cause analytics, and on your infrastructure or cloud-based service. Our goal is to essentially use performance management and monitoring and turn IT service delivery into business advantage. So you can bring more value to the business. You can get to faster diagnosis. That means increase your productivity. maximize your business productivity, enhance your service delivery, accelerate your IT departments, and last but not least, focus on doing your IT jobs rather than firefighting all the time. So we are a solution that enables you to get to that place. Now, Citrix XenApp 7, XenApp and XenDesktop 7. Okay, I'm just going to call it 7.x because it takes too much time to say XenApp and XenDesktop 7.x. A radically new Citrix ecosystem. So just to contrast with what we used to have, 6.5, versus what we have now in 7.x, it's a major architecture overhaul, and you know that this is a rip and replace. This is not a upgrade like in place upgrade. So most of you know that we had done a couple of webinars regarding migrating and different steps involved and what are the best practices and all that stuff. Now, let's talk about what's changed in here, right? NetScaler has become a lot more important now. It has been important before, but it's become a lot more important. It's become the single source of access, remote access to all applications. It becomes an ICA proxy, secure delivery for VDI. And now we've got Storefront. It provides an interface for users to access virtual desktop and applications remotely. Now we've got Delivery Controller, which is like the hub of the entire system now. It does your load management, communication with the storefront, configuration, policy management, user and worker management, a lot of different stuff. And then you've got your VDAs, desktop VDAs and server VDAs that are on the client side or on the server side, making sure that all the elements that are supposed to be there for the user are present, they have the right access, and they can perform. So it's an extra step, extra layer to make sure that the user is getting what they're supposed to be getting. So what you will notice here is a lot of new components and a lot of new functionality in place. That means a lot of new things that you need to keep an eye on, a lot of new things you need to watch for to make sure performance is optimal. Now, what's new in Citrix XenApp, XenDesktop 7.x? Workspace environment management. This is pretty neat. Adaptive transport protocol, FrameHawk, session pre-launch and lingering. Again, this is pretty neat too. GPU capabilities, Linux VDAs, Citrix Cloud Delivery. We'll look at each one of them briefly. Workspace environment management. I think this is a significant piece when it comes to user experience management. Citrix has tried to deliver more powerful user experience using WEM, and it's supposed to reduce logon duration by up to 20 to 40%. It manages your resource and profile in an intelligent manner. It delivers the best user experience and application response time. It intelligently adjusts RAM, CPU, and I/O. So it does a lot of work internally to try and make sure that the users are seeing optimal experience. So if you've got WEM enabled, if you're an enterprise and platinum customer, you get it by default, and you have it enabled, then you can experience a lot of advantages from it. HDX adaptive transport. So HDX with enlightened data transport. The key here is the EDT piece of it. What Citrix has done with this is it's enabled long haul connections, which is basically people coming over on the internet from long distances to have a reasonably decent Citrix experience, just like how people internally connect. So it has a lot of shortcuts to understand how the connection is and improve performance of certain things like client drive mapping, thin wire interactivity. So essentially, it makes the user experience a lot more palatable when people are coming through long haul WAN connections. It improves application interaction, automatically responds to changing network connections. So FrameHawk, a new ICA virtual channel, extends Citrix HDX technologies. It's it tricks the user into thinking that the screens that they are seeing is refreshing appropriately, or it uses a sophisticated algorithm to make sure that the screen refresh looks natural, even though there is potentially loss on the network. And so it tries to distinguish between the different types of loss and tries to adjust accordingly. So it's another smart way in which Citrix is focusing on user experience. Intelligent session management. This means as soon as you log off or close the app, it keeps the session open. So if you're opening an app again, you have a seamless connection into that app instead of going through the entire logon process again. Again, this is significant in certain use cases where it's important, where people close applications, reopen applications constantly. GPU and Linux support with HDX 3D Pro, and this is big in a lot of graphics intensive applications. Now, there is more and more use cases that are being rolled into the Citrix world, and that means more and more powerful use cases can be accommodated into Citrix. We've got support for Linux VDAs, and last but not least, stuff that Amar talked about, service delivery through Citrix Cloud. So you've got management servers that are in the control plane, and then you've got the XenApp servers and XenDesktop VMs hosted on premise in your resource plane, and then the cloud connector acts as a communication channel in between. So this is also available for users to take advantage of. Now, so those were some of the highlights of what's new, right? Now, is your monitoring solution equipped to handle the 7.x, right? And the way you need to look at it is whatever was working for 4.x, it's not essentially the same platform that will work today, because Citrix has evolved. So there's an analogy: as your technology evolves, you have different devices to take advantage of that technology. So the same way as you've evolved from 4.x to 6.x to 7.x, you should look at monitoring solutions that can handle the newer functionality and newer complexity that have come with 7.x. Proactive monitoring is obviously still the highlight. So what's the most important thing that we need? And this is from the Citrix users and Citrix admins. Basically, what they need is proactive alerts. So they want to be alerted about things before, ideally, they start impacting users. That means you got to run simulations, you got to look at things end to end. But proactive is one of the most important things that you need to be looking for. So monitoring logons obviously is a key piece. Real user logon monitoring must be done in a distributed manner, because now it's not just happening at the XenApp layer, it's happening at the delivery controller and the XenApp layer. So you need to monitor the logon that happens at the delivery controller. You need to monitor logon that happens at the XenApp layer. Logon has always been a critical piece when it comes to Citrix user experience monitoring. And with 7.x, it has just become a little more complicated to monitor. So you need to have a solution that can truly monitor this, understands the complexity of how to manage this environment. It also needs to be WEM aware. If WEM is used, logon time is supposed to be much faster. But at the same time, if WEM is not functioning correctly, that could have some adverse effects. I mean, recently we've had challenges with a few of our customers where they have not set it up correctly, so there were some challenges, and we were able to help them pick it out. So it's important to start looking at WEM, otherwise you will be having unforeseen performance challenges that you won't be able to place your fingers on because you don't know what's going on. Monitoring system needs to be WEM aware. So we are looking at highlights of what's needed when it comes to 7.x monitoring. It should cover the new components. It goes without saying, delivery controllers, storefront, VDAs, WAMs. It should cover the new protocols, new delivery models, the EDTs, the frameworks that we just talked about. It should cover the cloud control plane, so we should be able to collect statistics from that, cloud connector, public cloud, and all that. It also needs to be FMA aware. VDAs are key components of the FMA architecture, so you need to monitor the VDAs. So VDAs are there to make sure the client session is going to be fault tolerant. But if VDAs are not functioning well, there is going to be a big hole there. So it's important for you to be monitoring the VDAs. There are a lot of things you need to look for in each and every one of these things that I'm highlighting, but I want to give you a perspective of all the different things that you need to be focused on. There are dozens and dozens of metrics, in fact, hundreds of metrics in each and every one of these sections in some cases that needs to be monitored and managed. Monitoring obviously must be GPU aware. If you're using GPU, you need to understand which VMs are using GPU, which application processes are consuming excessive GPU. Is any VM over provisioned? When will the hypervisor run out of GPU? So it's important for you to be aware of those things. So with those things in mind, we've seen what's new in 7.x. We've seen some of the things that you need to keep an eye on when it comes to 7.x performance management and monitoring. So let's combine that together and look at some of the best practices for 7.x infrastructures, right? So the first bucket is the beginning process, right? It's the people trying to connect and to monitor, log on, and user experience through synthetic simulation. I think this is important because it tends to catch things before they start happening. If you have a logon issue and you don't have synthetic performance management for synthetic logon transaction, chances are that you're going to see it when user starts logging in and there is a event storm. And in those situations, even small problems can get really magnified and cause a site-wide user impact, which obviously you don't want. So you need to have logon simulation, and you also need to have real user logon processing. It's not enough just to have logon simulation. Logon is the first and the most important step in terms of user experience. So the smoother it goes, the more consistent it is, the more repeatable it is in terms of latency, the more better the user experience is going to be. So you need to track the real user logons in case there are challenges, identify those challenges and resolve them. Track processing by Citrix WEM. This also helps in logon processing and user experience management. Now with that, I'm going to show you a demo of how a true logon simulation monitoring is done. Okay, so this is using our EG software cloud service, and this can be run in-house also. So in this example, you're looking at Citrix logon simulations. And so in these simulations, you can see different things that are happening. So in this simulation, you are connecting into the storefront using through Netscaler, and then you're launching an application and successfully making sure that the application is launched. And once it is launched, you are disconnecting from it. So you're seeing all these different applications that are being launched and tested. So customers can test different types of applications and logon time it takes and the launch time it takes. So you're looking at client-side browser processing, Netscaler storefront access, actual authentication time it takes for enumeration, HDX session establishment, application desktop launch complete, and also log out. So you get a full spectrum of what is happening from the logon simulation. So if you tend to have bottlenecks and slowdowns, you can pick it up from here long before your real users come on board. And you can do this for multiple different sets of applications, multiple type of applications. And it goes through a complete cycle. It logs in, it checks all the different stages, the latency that happens in all the different stages, and then it also eventually logs out. So it gives you a comprehensive overview of logon simulation. Now, combined with that, is what we have called as real logon monitoring. So here is an example of real logon monitoring. So I'm going through the user experience dashboard, looking at all the users connected there. I clicked into Tim, and this is Tim's session. I'm looking at his logon. So it took 14.11 seconds. So overall, you can see where he's currently logged in, what are the systems he's connected to, where he's connecting from, what is the client version, client type. And then you can see in this, there is breakdown on brokering, VM start, authentication, interactive session, profile load, GPOs, and then you can see server-side startup processing, client-side startup processing. There is clear breakdown across the board as to what is going on. Group policy processing took 4.4 seconds. You can actually drill down and see what exactly was happening. Local group policy 2.5 seconds. So basically, you are given the details. Remember, we talked about half of this is available on the director side and the other half is available on the XenApp. So we have combined all of it together for ease of use. So you can see from one single place what is happening when real users logged in. When for every single user, that means you will know when there are challenges, when there are slowdowns. You will know exactly where the slowdown is, why the slowdown happened. That means you can get ahead of the problem and you take care of those problems. You take your logon time from wherever it was to the optimal in your environment. We have seen multiple customers use this and catch all sorts of random issues that happen in their environment. Some mapping issues, some issues with authentication. There are issues with profile loading. These are common challenges, and you expect that the profile is going to come from a shared location, but it's not really coming from a shared location, and it takes much longer. And once you see that a group of users are having a problem, you're able to drill down, see exactly what the problem is, address it, and move on. And you can do this one at a time, and you continue doing this, your logon tends to become trouble-free, consistent, and you are looking at it from both simulation perspective and real logon perspective. So once you get to a point where your logon experience has the least amount of issues or absolutely no issues, with the optimal latency in your environment, that gives the best first impression for your customers. And then you're starting them off in the right foot. So that's a quick demo of how logon simulation combined with real logon metrics can really improve user experience and give you good coverage that you need on the 7.x environment. All right, I'm going to go back to the slides. So we just looked at this, monitoring user experience through synthetic simulation, built-in logon simulator. We just saw this. Real logon processing. Again, we saw this. So diagnosing which step is causing the slowness. That is key, right? Because users will tell you if the logon is slow, but diagnosing exactly which step is causing the slowness gives you the ability to go and fix it. That means you are taking care of the issues in real time. You're proactively fixing issues using simulation. You're taking care of the issues in real time. As you keep doing that, you get to a point where logon is trouble-free. So group policy map drives taking 36 seconds. You can see the detailed diagnosis there. Okay, track processing by Citrix Workspace Environment Management. So how do we monitor Citrix WEM? So we look at it on the VDA, monitor logon processing by VEM, CPU clamping, everything, and then that is being fed into our console. And we also look at it from the WEM broker. So we look at it both from the VDA and the WEM broker, and that gives us a comprehensive view of how the WEM function is working. If you look at an example here from the director, you are seeing interactive session time. This does not include WM agent processing time. Whereas if you look at a true breakdown from EG, you can see that total WM processing time is 137 seconds. initial processing and WM agent processing, you can see that WM external task processing duration seconds is 121. And then you can get a drill down and it'll tell you exactly where it spent the time. So in effect, you can get the visibility you need into the new functionality that is available in 7.x to be able to manage it effectively. In-depth monitoring of Citrix delivery controller, desktop, server VDA. All right, delivery controller, we saw earlier that it is an important component of the new 7.x architecture, right? And there is a lot of things that you need to take care of in delivery controller. There is a lot of things. We can spend an entire 60 minutes just walking through all the metrics and all the key elements that need to be looked at in delivery controller. So this is a slide that touches on some of the details, but overall, you can look at desktop sessions, how desktop sessions are performing, breakdown of desktops, what state are these desktops in, breakdown of sessions, which are active, which are preparing, which are disconnected, which are non-brokered sessions. You can look at controller services, broker service, machine creation service, host service, configuration service, all these details that are important to be looked at because all of these are contributing to the overall success of the Citrix service. That means they're contributing to the user experience. So let me show you guys an example of how this looks like in the user interface here. So we'll look at the delivery controller. So you can look at delivery controller in real time, delivery groups, so Windows clients. Okay. So you can see the total machines, registered machines, percentage of used machines. Like I said, there are a lot of metrics in here. What I'm showing you is an example where the delivery controller is fully managed. All the breakdowns are available for you from here. Log on details, application details, delivery groups, and the details for all those delivery groups available. And that is the level of detail you need to have to effectively manage delivery controller. And that should be one of the best practices for managing 7.x. Desktop and server VDA. So VDA we saw as a key element that is responsible for making sure there is consistency on the session from a Citrix perspective. This is like an internal watchdog, if you will, and that makes monitoring that internal watchdog, making sure it is fine. In effect, make sure that your overall Citrix session is fine. Anytime there is a problem with VDA, it is going to lead to problem with Citrix sessions because Citrix sessions now depend on the VDA. You need to look at it from the server side, and you also need to look at it from the client side. Again, there are a lot of metrics to look at. What I'm trying to present here is the highlights of what you need to focus on. You don't have to worry about the individual metrics that are coming up on the screen right now. Like I said, the deck will be available for your reference later on. Suffice to understand that there are a ton of metrics in every single stage and every single point. So this is from a network perspective. So we can look at network problems, monitoring EDT and frame hack performance. So we looked at logon, we looked at delivery controller and VDA new Citrix elements. We look at now network related elements that need to be managed in the newer versions. So identifying network problem in the client side affecting session performance. The best way to do it is to club the client network latency with the screen refresh latency. Overall screen refresh latency with the client network latency. So you can see that if there is an impact on the screen refresh latency, whether it's happening because of client network latency or not. And this is very simple, very easy for people to see, and it makes things much easier for people to understand. Now with that, I'm going to take a quick break, and throw it out to Amar for Q&A. There are a couple of more best practices I want to cover, and then we'll talk about analytics and machine learning and do a demo of how that helps you.
Thank you, Bala. So we have a couple of questions. The first one is, how does can I use your logon monitor from a different locations across the globe to monitor user logon process?
Yes, yes. So the logon monitor has the ability to be run from anywhere in the globe, and it will connect to your Citrix form just like a Citrix user and launch the application as requested. So basically, it has the flexibility. So we have a lot of customers who use Logon Simulator not just to check applications, check the overall logon performance, but also check effectively latency from different branches that they have throughout the globe. So the logon is run with the same application setup. It's run from different continents across the globe.
Okay. Does it captures if there is issues with AD or network, or if there is any issues with the applications that is installed on VDAs? So does it capture all this information and give it to the administrators who are monitoring user profiles?
Correct. So what it does is, so this is why you need to have a combination of a logon simulation and logon real logon monitoring. So with the combination of those two, you will be able to see which section of the logon is failing or slowing down or creating the latency issue, and you will be able to drill down in the real logon section to see why that is happening. So you will get a combination of what is failing and why it is failing. So you will have enough information to go address that. Well,
Okay,
maybe
perfect.
we'll have the rest of the questions. You have anything else you want to quickly ask? We'll take one more and then have the
Uh,
rest of the questions
yeah,
towards the end.
I have one more question. Does it require any agent on VDA or on a client mission to capture the logon process?
No, there is no agent required on the client machine. All the monitoring is done from the farm, and in even in VDI situations, we can do it agentlessly. There is also an agent option available, but for us to function and collect these statistics that I am demonstrating today, you don't have to necessarily install any agents on the client or on the VDA.
Yeah, that's really great. Um, I think I think we yeah that's it for now,
Okay.
Bala. I think we can
All right.
continue.
All right. Excellent. So we talked about the last thing we talked about before we went on the Q&A was being able to show the client network latency right next to screen refresh latency and the user experience metrics. You can clearly see how advantageous it is here. So you can see that the screen refresh latency on an average is 5.9 seconds, but client network latency is really good. There's no issue with the client network latency. So this screen refresh issue is not happening because of the client latency. So why is it happening? You can scroll down. So this gives you insight into the level and the depth of metrics we collect. So you can see that the printer bandwidth input and printer bandwidth is basically choking, and that is creating slowdown for that particular session. So a long print job probably running in the background, choking that session, and that's creating latency issues. And you will be able to see that clearly in one shot for a user. So with that example, I'm going to jump back into the sessions, into the PPT again. So monitoring EDT and frame hawk performance. So suffice to say that we can collect EDT statistics. You can see an example here: bandwidth available, round trip time, flow window, congestion window, send packets, and all that. Drop packets, congestion. So it's important to understand how the EDT is performing. And when there are more than one session, you can get a drill down in terms of deeper view in terms of different sessions and what's going on. And also frame hawk, measure and report on frame hawks, latency, overall network loss percentage, and the bandwidth that is available for frame hawk. Okay, so we looked at the network piece of it and connection. So, and we are highlighting only the things that you're needing for 7.x, newly for 7.x. So monitoring browser activity, right? Browser-based applications are significant when it comes to Citrix user sessions today. A lot of applications are browser-based, and there's a huge demand for those. And they also present challenges when this users start using YouTube and all kinds of stuff in their session without realizing the kind of impact it can have on their session performance or even others' session performance on the server. So this gives us the ability to drill down and see exactly what is going on. So in this example, you can see we are able to drill down for the CPU time, and you're able to see that the URL being accessed. You'll be surprised how many times we see people looking at Prime movies or Netflix or YouTube. Track resource usage by browser sessions. So all these details, again, become important when you need to manage the user experience for 7.x. Now, last couple, when it comes to key metrics focused on 7.x, monitoring GPU utilization because it is available, gain performance and visibility into Citrix cloud delivery. So vGPU utilization and availability. Obviously, when you have GPUs enabled, you need to understand GPU utilization per desktop VM, measure all the critical metrics that are important, frame buffer memory, and you should be able to consolidate all this and see what kind of impact GPU usage from a system, from a VM, or from an application is having on the overall GPU. So in-depth GPU level metrics. So measure vGPU. So here's an example of vGPU usage per process running in a desktop. So you can see which process is consuming a lot of graphics. Cloud delivery. So this is, again, something Amar touched on in the beginning. Cloud delivery is becoming more and more a reality. Cloud workspace is becoming more and more popular. How do you manage your environment when half of it is in the cloud and the other half is in your environment? You need to have a single pane of glass that provides you the ability to track what is going on in your environment comprehensively, at the same time understand what is going on in the cloud delivery controller. So we've been working with Citrix, and like Amar mentioned, we've been a partner of Citrix for over 15 plus years now, and we have a very close relationship with them. They trust us in terms of our expertise when it comes to performance management, when it comes to guiding them in the right direction in terms of what kind of metrics need to be available for the different platforms that they have. As a side note, Citrix has been using EG to monitor and manage their Citrix environments in Summit and Synergy for the past 4 years. So we are the ones taking care of all their setup that goes to Summit and Synergy. Now, going back to the cloud situation, we have connectivity into the Citrix Cloud Workspace. We can give you visibility into what is going on. And the key here is you don't have to use 2 different consoles. You don't have to use 2 different products. Everything is integrated into the single EG console. Here you can see an example of it where there is a cloud hosted XenApp, there is cloud connectors, there is Citrix provisioning servers, Active Directory, some of that is hosted in-house. All of this in various different data centers, but you can see a single view of how this service is being delivered to the end user. So we can collect all these metrics, and of course, we don't have to install an agent on the Citrix Cloud Delivery Controller. We collect the statistics using the Citrix API, and we collect all the relevant statistics that you need to have. How is it functioning? What kind of service levels you're getting from them, and all the relevant stuff. Keep your questions coming. I know there is quite a bit of content here, and if you have any specific questions on any of these or technical details, I'll be happy to answer. And here you're seeing a highlight of everything that is changing and everything that is need to be focused on in 7.x. We will be doing future webinars that will be focused on a few of these elements and go into more technical detail at a later time. Okay, again, this is a summary of key cloud performance metrics. Citrix hosted cloud infrastructure control pane, you need to see all the metrics. Customer CSP infrastructure, Microsoft Azure infrastructure, if it's in Microsoft Azure, Citrix user experience monitoring, automatic root cause diagnosis, analytics, and reporting. All of this combined in one single snapshot, and that is what you need. You cannot afford to have one solution just to look at cloud pieces, one solution to look at Microsoft Azure, one solution to look at your internal infrastructure, because when a problem happens, a service spans across all these three different layers, and you need to be able to have visibility across these layers for you to effectively manage them and effectively manage user experience. So this is a quick summary, right? So monitor user experience through synthetic simulation, real logon processing, tracking processing by Citrix WEM, in-depth monitoring of delivery controller, desktop and server VDA, then network segment, identify the network problems in client side, monitor the new EDT and Framehawk protocols, and monitor browser activity, monitor vGPU, and then Citrix Cloud Delivery. So this is key. This is a key summary when it comes to 7.x areas that you need to focus on to effectively deliver ideal user experience to your Citrix users. So a lot of these things have changed in 7.x, and your focus needs to be here, in addition to whatever else you were doing in 6.5. Now, to the final piece, metric collection is easy. I always tell my customers that collecting metrics is not rocket science. Everybody can do that, right? If you've given some free time, you can go put some scripts together and collect metrics from Perfmon in your free time. And I know a lot of people who actually have done that. But in reality, metrics is the foundation of your performance management. It's not really useful when you're having a problem. It's not really useful if all you do is collecting metrics and presenting it in a nice interface. What you need is artificial intelligence and automated analytics on top to convert those metrics, which are called data, into information that you can act upon. Because when you have a problem, the problem looks a lot complicated in real time. If you're collecting a lot of metrics, it can tend to look a lot more complicated. So let me show you guys an example of how that looks in real life. Okay, so we're going back into the demo, and I'm going to show you a real-time snapshot. Now, this is an example of EG looking at a service. It's part cloud, part internal infrastructure that is being monitored. It's a simple Citrix environment. And let us say you have, this is EG's result. And the way it looks is you can see that there are about 15 things that are wrong in the environment right now. It's sorted based on priority and time of the event. And you can see that it is prioritized and said, this is the most critical event to look at right now. So if I look at it, it will tell me what exactly is going on. and it tells me that somebody is taking up a lot of CPU. It's a Samba backup. It's taking up a lot of CPU. It's pretty mundane that things that could happen, and it's happening in a VM, right? So ICP utilization in a VM, that's happening on a ESX host, and that seems to be my most critical problem. And that is causing multiple um, trickle down effects that are impacting user experience across the board. Now, let's say typically the monitoring tools are siloed. So more often than not, you get these different metrics. You get the ESX metrics in a separate tool. You get Citrix metrics in a separate tool. You get Windows metrics in a separate tool. Now, then you have to have the ability to put it all together. Let's say using a consolidation tool. Let's say if you do that, and if you have all the metrics that EG collects, you'll still end up with something like this. Now, in this example, you're having a real life problem, and I'm sure most of you have faced this. You're having a real problem, users are complaining, and you log on to your tools, and everybody's seeing like 5 different things that are wrong in their own tools. Now, the onus is on you to try to figure out which one should you be focusing on, which one is the real problem, as opposed to the effect. What is data versus information? All you're left with is a bunch of graphs. You're going down a rabbit hole. Eventually, you'll figure it out. You'll get a bunch of people. It might take you 40 minutes. It might take you 4 hours. It might take you 40 hours. But eventually, you'll figure out. In some cases, this is a problem that goes away, right? Because the backup stops running and the problem vanishes and you don't know what's going on. But this is the power of analytics and artificial intelligence. The ability of the software to understand the patterns in your environment, map the topologies, and understand the impact versus the cost, and then focus you on the right issue. Having that ability means right now, when I look at this, instead of calling 4 guys, my VMware guy, my network guy, and my security guy, and my whoever else, and start digging into this problem, I know exactly where the problem is, who needs to be involved in this, and how it needs to be addressed. It's a simple thing. More often than not, in fact, 95% of the time, the amount of time it takes to find the problem is much higher than the amount of time it takes to fix the problem. So if you're able to have a tool that has the artificial intelligence to find the problem for you, then the complexity of performance management, the complexity of managing these end-to-end, end-tier environments today reduces dramatically. So let's see how EG has come to this conclusion very quickly. So I'll start off from the home page. Very quickly, we'll drill down into the services. You can see, so partner access, these are real transactions that are being slow. These are, I beg your pardon, these are simulated transactions, people accessing applications, updating items being simulated, and they are much slower than usual. Typically, this is where you will get a call saying, hey, things are not working. Whereas in this case, it is telling you that's a low priority issue. So let's drill down and see what is going on. It sees things that are breaking down across the board. You can see green signs. That means that component is good. And you can see yellow ones, and you can see orange ones. Orange is a medium priority. Yellow is a low priority. You can see the entire service that is being delivered and how it's all working together. You can see the entire service end to end. And this is fundamentally simplifying the way you manage the Citrix service. Imagine having these things in silos. Much worse, imagine having these components in different tools. So you got to look at different tools to try and understand what's going on. But when in reality, all of these are working together to deliver the service to the end user. And this is monitoring it exactly how it works. So having that ability means you can add artificial intelligence into it to see the impact of what's going on at every layer. So you can see the problems when you click here, and you can also drill into the problem. So this is the medium priority problem. Let's drill into it. And you can see that server, that XenApp, is actually running on a ESX host. So I drilled into the XenApp. CPU time used by user session is high, so it's running on choking on CPU. I know that. So let me go back and go into the ESX host, try to see what the problem is, and I can clearly see one VM is creating a problem, and it's the same problem that I saw outside. This is the inside view, and I can see that that's the backup process. Backup running in a corner case uh, VM that is not even part of your Citrix service typically is not the first thing you would be looking at when users are complaining about slowness. But you can see how the layer model, how EG has the ability to drill down and show you all this. And I drilled down because I wanted to show you how this solution is put together and how the AI works on top of it. In reality, all you would be looking at is the alarm window. And in fact, not even the alarm window, because it has the ability to integrate with your incident management tools. So automatically alerts go in, and the right person is provided with the ticket, and you go on, move on to fixing the problem. That means you're dramatically reducing the amount of time, and you also can see the impact of problems. So this VM having misbehaving has impacted your Citrix service, and you can see that this VM had nothing to do with the Citrix service. So this can lead you to make a decision that says, okay, as part of this problem management, I am going to move this VM out of my Citrix ESX host because I don't want this to recur again. And that means you prevented this problem from happening in future. And that is where you really want to be. And in reality, even if you had that VM there, when you're getting at 70% CPU, 75% CPU, you are going to be getting alerts from the system. And if you have the proper incident management run books or proper rules set up, you can look at it at that time and address it before it starts impacting users. Again, you prevented the problem before it impacted the users. And that's where you want to be. So what you've looked at right now is a sneak peek into what AI can do for you. And this AI has been built into our tool for the past 15 years. It understands in real time. There are no manual rules for you to code in for for this AI to work. It understands the environment. It looks at the traffic flow. It looks at the dependency flow during the time of the day, day of the week, and then compares this over history and builds the AI itself. So it's a self-learning tool that can also provide self-healing. Depending on the type of issues, it can provide corrective actions. It can trigger off scripts to change things or modify things or kill things as needed. So a couple of things, highlights I want to touch on before we wrap it up and throw it back to Q&A. Auto baselining, automatically understanding your environment's pattern and baseline accordingly. This is critical when it comes to understanding and catching things proactively, and also helps in migration. Intuitive dashboards. There are a bunch of dashboards that you can look at it from a different perspective. So you can look at a user experience dashboard. You can look at, so different users in your environment can different have different use cases. Managers want to look at the overall environment. The help desk might want to look at just user experience, and you might want to look at analytics across the environment. So you all can get different customized dashboards. You can get different analytics, breakdown of logon performance, a lot of different things, tons and tons of analytics and reports, because all the data we collect is stored. So you can go back and look at historical data. So to summarize, um, XenApp 7. Zen XenApp XenDesktop 7.x is a radically new ecosystem, right? And your monitoring practices have to be 7.x ready. And we went through some of the key best practices that you need to have for 7.x ready. And they talked about a lot of deep dive metrics you need to have in different sections to really comprehensively cover 7.x. And we consolidated that with AI and automatic analytics to help you get the best out of the system. It's not just a collection of metrics, but applying the AI, artificial intelligence, and the analytics on top means you get information that you need to act upon. So the amount of time you spend troubleshooting is minimal, and you can keep your user experience optimal. All right, with that, I would like to throw it back to Amar for any other questions.
Thanks, Bala. It was a great presentation. We got a few more questions. The first question is easy tool, easy innovation tool, an on-premises tool, or is it a cloud-based one? Again, it required agent or agentless system.
So it can be on premise. You can run it entirely in house as software in your environment, or we also provide a cloud based service. And we also have both agentless and agent based. So it is completely flexible in terms of deployment options, and it can be customized to your needs.
Okay. Does the next question, does Easy have any solution for site-to-site links for different software repository, or say, I mean, like for AppV or even app layering repositories across a global network?
Okay, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, does Easy Innovation, I mean, Easy Solutions have any solution for site-to-site links for different software repositories like AppV or app layering across a global network?
We do monitor app layering. I am not sure if the question is referring to do we provide app layering. We don't provide app layering. We can
Mhm.
monitor app layering, and when there are breakdowns in app layering from one side to the other, we can definitely identify and report on it.
Okay. The next question is related to GPU monitoring. Does your solution use API from AMD for monitoring their GPUs?
Yes, across the board, anywhere we use GPU monitoring, it is purely API based.
Okay. The next question, does your solution support integration with ServiceNow?
Yes, we do support integration with ServiceNow and a lot of different similar um, incident.
Okay. The next question, what benefits that we get if we use agent or agentless monitoring?
It basically both have benefits and pros and cons as effectively, and depends on your situation and what do you want to do. An agent-based solution tends to give you a little more than agentless, but a lot of people tend to prefer agentless because they seem to think it is less load on the system. So depending on the situation, you can do both. They both will give you the coverage that you need, but agent-based will give you a little bit more coverage, maybe 5 to 10% more, depending on the situation, than agentless.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Uh, we got few more questions coming in, but we are running out of time today. I'll share the questions with Bala, and he will get back to you with answers to your registered email address. Um, Again, thanks, Bala, for your fantastic presentation. We will share the recorded webinar link with you guys, all attendees. Please feel free to come back and watch the archive and share with your colleagues. Uh, that's being said, thanks everyone for joining us today. That concludes today's broadcast.